NFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your international weekend. And it is welcome to George and Steve. Welcome back, Steve. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How's everybody else? I hope you're all fit and well.
All good. How was your trip away?
It was absolutely brilliant. Had a great time in Dubai. Great time with some of the Dubai mags, with Mitch, obviously. Saw a couple of games and then went to the Maldives Islands, of all places. A bit of a special surprise from my daughter, and spent 4 nights on a paradise island. You couldn't believe what we experienced. Absolutely fantastic, Steve. Highly recommended. Highly recommended.
Excellent. It was an anniversary present, wasn't it? A late trip.
It was, yes. It was a late 40th wedding anniversary present from my daughters, which was very nice of them. Lovely surprise. Lovely surprise.
Was it raining, Steve?
It wasn't raining. It was never raining, and I could probably prove the weather if I took my shirt off and showed you the patchy quilt of chest and but I should have a packet like that. I'm not kidding, of dry skin. I think that's peeled off in the last week and a half since I got back.
Classic. Good stuff, mate. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. Lovely to hear. No Mitch tonight. He's in transportation mode. He's at an airport. He was going to jump on for the first 20 minutes, but unfortunately, he can't find anywhere quiet to broadcast from. And I've told him to have the weekend off, but he's trying to get back to do the professionals on Sunday. So hopefully he'll get there. But it's a busy time for Neil. New launch of his new side of things on the work side of things. So it's great to see him making a bit of progress with everything that he's put a lot of time and effort into starting to come to fruition. So it's great news. So we'll wish him well and hopefully catch him on Sunday. Only going to do 90 minutes tonight. We tend to do that on the international break anyway. And I've got a couple of thank yous. First of all, thank you to Penny Print for the excellent service and Rob Maltman for the wonderful design of the fanzine. It's arrived. Wow. Apologies to Steve Hasty. Steve's name is missing out of his article. That's my fault because I was trying to rush through the check and the spell check, etc., and getting it together. So Steve is the unnamed article in here, which is about the boys' clubs, I think it is, if I remember rightly, Steve. But it's excellent. It's really good. But it's a great fanzine. So they were all posted out yesterday with the correct poster, John. So they should all be dropping onto your doorsteps in the next day or two. Anyone who doesn't get one, of course, give us a shout. But the biggest thank you goes to everybody who subscribed, because the fact that I managed to go out and get the fanzine posted off means that I can get a final total. So how much did the fanzine raise for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia this season? Well, you wonderful lot have raised
Wow.
£1,902.14 for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. So that is what we get for our money. Thank you very much for that. And it makes it worthwhile the likes of me, Steve, George, and the lads spending a little bit of time and effort writing a wonderful article, 4 times a season, just to raise that kind of money and make such a difference. I haven't told the charity yet. If there's anybody watching, they'll be delighted, of course. I will be dropping them an email, but I've only just found that out in the last half hour. And I asked Rob Maltman to quickly design that for us. So thank you, Rob, on all counts. You've designed a wonderful fanzine. And I've gone old school this time, lads, because as somebody who's done lots of fanzines over the years, the Mighty Quinn, the Number 9, Toon Talk, Players Inc., of course, the North East Football Magazine, and now NUFC Matters. I've gone back to black and white typewriter print in this one for the full season. And I tell you what, already I love it. It's great. It's like a proper old fanzine. So enjoy it. I've seen a couple of people have already got it and have already said it looks great, and some people have already read it. So thank you so much to everybody who's joined in that little crusade of ours. And you know what? It is the only print fanzine, as Alan says. It's a classic cover, he says. Well, that was my idea, Alan, so I will take the praise for that, mate. And Denise says it looks amazing. Thank you. I've also got to say a big thank you to Rob Mitchell, who does Talk of the Tune. Rob, selflessly dedicates, quite a bit of time to doing a show, doing his research on albums, but he also spends a lot of time making a donation here and there. We've all seen him do it in the chat, which is very nice of him to do that, because that does go to what we call the Malverno Fund, which we never ask for anything for this, but it means that when the lads come over, we can treat them, and when we have a big do and everyone's together, we can get a few drinks for the people who do the moderating and the chat and stuff, which is nice to be able to do that. But we also, as you know, when we do these events now, it's non-profit. I don't make any money out of it. Nobody does. So it's a nice opportunity for us to raise money again, but for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. And Rob has sent some great prizes for the next one. He sent a bag full of tops, new tops as well. So we bought the tops for the Warren Barton event and for the Peter Beardsley and the Superman event. One is a Newcastle United Cup final shirt from last year. Another one's an entertainer's top, which will be handy for the Warren Barton show. And there's another top here, which he wants me to keep, but I don't take 2XL, Rob. So Rob and Rachel have sent us this. I might keep that, Rob, as I've said. If it gets cold wherever I'm broadcasting a show, I might keep that one. I've tried it on, to be fair, and it's not a very good fit, but it'd be handy in the winter. So I might give it away though. But then again, there's not many people who are 2XL.
I'll try it for you, Steve.
I tell you who it might fit, Darren. And I'm not saying Darren's a big lad, but it would fit him better than it fits me. So it could be Darren. But anyway, Rachel and Rob, because Rachel is Rob's partner, thank you so much for that wonderful donation. Those kind of things are, never go, but we never take that kind of donation for granted, and thank you. I was also going to ask how Jeff is. I've just asked George, but Jeff is okay. I've just literally, as I've gone on air, got an email off Jeff. Something wasn't working, he said. So from his point of view, he's still very shocked, but he started writing stuff again today, and he's made it to Lidl. So that's good news. Jeff Carter's fine, because I hadn't heard from him since we got the awful news that his pet cat had passed away. And Stu Penman has just messaged us to say he's double XL. The jumper, Stu, to be honest, it really, really would. Evening, Phil. He says, everyone, great to see a different 3 Amigos. Never mind the Baldies, here's the Amigos. Very good. It's excellent. I guess we've got to start with Ross Wilson, lads, because it is confirmed now. The worst secret in Newcastle's story so far this season was that Ross Wilson was coming. Nothing official, of course, from the club, but we've referred to Ross Wilson. Certainly, Mitch, Stu, and you have, Steve, on numerous occasions that Ross Wilson would be the man. We've now really, it's out there now. He is going to come. Newcastle are sorting out a separation deal with Notts Forest. He'll be on his way, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, doesn't it, that nothing's ever easy in football, and trying to prize away a player is difficult enough. But then now we're into realms of prizing away sporting directors as well. As you say, probably the best kept secret on Tyneside bracket not I think everybody knew. I mean, it had been in the press for God knows how many months now that he was in the hot seat and expected to join. But great news for Newcastle United. Great news for Eddie Howe that he's getting a little bit more support. And let's hope we get a little bit of stability, Steve, because I think that's the most important thing. We've now got a CEO who's getting his feet under the table, and I think people have already seen probably some of the videos that have been on social media. He's been out and about. He's been meeting people. He did a little piece, I think, earlier in the week with the foundation with some of the walking football lads, and just getting a feel for Tyneside, getting a feel for different age groups and how they are sort of what their desires and love for the football club is and what they've gone through and what their hopes and aspirations are. That's all well and good. But we've now getting into the business side of it, and we're going to have to see some action from the likes of Ross Wilson and from our chief executive in the not too distant future, because let's face it, there's nothing better when you start a new job than actually putting something firmly in place that you can establish as your own and take ownership of. So I think we're all looking forward to what is, I think Mitch quoted or stated a couple of weeks ago on the Amigos, it was the end of the beginning. The departure of Eels, the loss of Matt and Mia Dad and Mitchell. But now we were going into the next phase of the club's development. We saw £100 million or over £100 million put in by the owners to keep the club ticking over, to use in whatever way the new chief executive and the sporting director feel it needs to be spent and used, hopefully wisely. So all in all, Steve, we're looking quite good. I think we're looking quite good off the field, and a great result that I'm sure we'll talk about last weekend, just to keep the momentum going after the European Games and before the international break. So I'm I was buzzing before I went on my holidays simply because I was going on holiday. I enjoyed my time watching some of the games when I was away. But there's nothing like being back at St James's Park as I was with George on Sunday for the game, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Great atmosphere, some really decent football. And this is the nitty gritty part of being involved with Newcastle United. We can talk about sporting directors, we can talk about CEOs. They don't win games. What win games is the players on the pitch. The performances are what excites us the most. And I think we've got to get back into that mindset. We've got to forget about what's happening off the field and concentrate on what's going on the pitch. Some big games and some important games coming up, Steve.
Yeah, some big games and important games coming up. Ross Wilson, though, George, we've spoken about him briefly on this show because we didn't want to speculate, but it's out in the open now. He is coming.
Almost an open secret, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if we've been talking about it that long, I'm sure there's people out there in the press and other places have as well. Well, some of them might, because some of them couldn't see the hands in front of them if they tried. So never mind. Yeah, it was interesting last weekend after the match to see Ross Wilson being friendly with his current employers and trying to be not too friendly with his next employers. It must have been an interesting weekend for him. And then to add to it, of course, the amount of speculation on the huge cuddle and chat that Eddie had with Elliot Anderson at the end of the game as well. So all in all, it must have made Nottingham Forest feel like they were sort of in the lion's den, and why not? I mean, that's how we like it. He comes with an incredible reputation, and while I agree, we need to concentrate much harder on what's going on the field, or as hard as ever what's going on the field. It is vitally important, and Steve said it, that what's happening off the field settles down into a routine that can be trusted and can be there to help Eddie and do other things. And the fact that that's got stability and hopefully for a long time, because the sporting director thing's just been a shambles. We got someone who comes with a huge amount of kudos and just didn't happen. And then we got somebody had even more kudos. It was worse. So now for goodness sake, let's stick with a guy who comes with real enthusiasm for football as much as anything, but a great deal of knowledge as well, to work with a new CEO who seems to have, very early, in my opinion, and I'm delighted with that, seems to have grasped the nettle in terms of Newcastle United isn't just a football team. It's a lot more than that. And if you can't grasp that, you're not going to last long. It's no good going onto the stack and singing Braden Races a couple of times a week, because that's not going to get you through. No, it has a really good feel to it at the moment, Steve. And as you know, I'm Mr. Optimistic when it comes to Newcastle United. And I'm feeling really good at the moment. I just can't look forward too much to the next game. You know, all the good things that's happening. We'll maybe talk about the game later, but there's so much good happening on the field as well as off the field. It's just good to be a Newcastle fan. Just great to be a Newcastle fan.
I tell you what,
it certainly is.
Is there a better time to catch Nottingham Forest unawares? Is there a better time to go to them when the owner is as distracted as he is currently with what's going on with his management? I mean, when you think about it, you know, it should be a smooth sail for picking up Ross Wilson, because that owner really is sort of in a totally different mindset. He lives in a little world of his own, doesn't he, in terms of the way that he's managing his club. A club that everybody up till 6 months ago was praising to the hilt. You know, they were hovering around third, fourth, second place in the league, managed to get into Europe. And yet the wheels have certainly come off, and they've come off not because of what's been happening on the pitch, but because of what's come on off the pitch. And I think if that's a warning to anyone, it's a warning to Newcastle United. You make sure that everything's happening on the pitch is going well. Your relationship with your manager, the relationship with your coaches and your players. But for some reason, the owner at Nottingham Forest seems to have gone the other way, and he seems to have shot himself in the foot.
Well, and he doesn't seem to have learned, Steve. As you know, I've got super Greek friends who very much involved with Olympiakos, and one by one, that owner, who's their owner, got rid of them all. He didn't want them there, you know. And we're talking about people that had money to invest, and he just didn't want them there. He wants to be the boss, and he's repeating the doors with Forest as well, by the look of things, which is quite sad for the fans. Is again, you know, all this goes on off the field, and people forget that there's 30, 40, 50,000 fans out there who are getting kicked in the small ones because of his behaviour, and that's not, you know, that's not fair at all. They certainly get my sympathy. I mean, some of the players we saw last Sunday were the same players that tore us apart a year ago, and weren't anything like that. So yeah, he's a strange man, to say the least, but he wants to be the boss, and not only that, he wants to show he's the boss, which is never the best way to go on, never, in any business, not just football.
Troll says Wilson, CV, Falkirk, Watford, Southampton, Huddersfield, Rangers and Forest, not very impressive, hence why I'm not excited, but I hope he improves us. Interesting, Trolls. Always a glass half full, I think, Trolls, at times on certain subjects, but it's all about opinions on this channel.
All I'd answer is that have a look at the progress that each of those clubs made while he was there before he moved on to the next one.
Okay. Phil says there, Ross Cummins hardly a secret. I was in a christening in Huddersfield in early August and had a chat with his wife about it. There we go. So Phil, in the know on that. And Les, I've posted yours and Jules' fanzines out. Big thanks to David Cook for buying you and Jules your subscriptions for this year. 100%, yeah. Great turnover at the day. I thought about going, but I've got to be perfectly honest. We weren't best pals, me and Ricky, but we knew each other. I had his number, he had mine. We'd swap a lot of messages over the years about football. There's me and Ricky down at his house a few years ago when we went down and did a challenge with the Long Sands. But of all the days for his funeral, a very important day in the calendar for everybody, which Denise pointed out earlier on, World Mental Health Day. And as she said, let's always try and support each other. If you know someone's struggling, listen, or at the very least, just be kind. Life can be hard and harder for some. Well said, Denise. And yeah, I'm nothing amazed, nothing was amazing about that turnout today, because we expected it for Ricky. It was great. And special mention to Adam Smith, who, you know, was a big pin in the sky and matchroom coverage back in the day. What a eulogy that was in church today, in the cathedral today in Manchester. Religion, you know, is important to some, not important to others. Eulogies, I would say, are the same in these kind of affairs, and I think they got it spot on. There was, you know, the religion that was, you know, the particular service that chose was excellent, but also the person that chose to do the eulogy on behalf of the family was wonderful. And there was wonderful eulogies, of course, from the family, which you would expect. Oh, but Adam Smith, I bet you there wasn't a dry eye in the house, you know, at that service for that. But yeah, rest in peace, Ricky. Would have been 47 this weekend and would have been probably in Spain celebrating. But yeah, tragic loss. And yeah, our thoughts go with his family. It's going to be very difficult to live life without Richard, I'm sure. But
I think, you know, Steve, I think a big shout out as well to his son Camel, because that must have been very difficult for him to get up and speak such a eulogy as well, you know, with a bit of humour, you know, a bit of pathos, a bit of humour, but very much in the sort of in the Ricky Hatton mould in terms of the way that he put it over, because the guy always had a smile on his face, and that's the sad thing about it. You know, we're saying, you know, be kind and look out for people, but often those guys with the smile on their face are the ones who are suffering the most, and it's something that we don't notice and we don't recognise, and doesn't fall into our own psyche. So all you've got to do is just be kind, be pleasant. It doesn't cost you anything.
No, definitely not.
For me, what was nice about Ricky was that he was one of those people in boxing who could actually make people who weren't that bothered about boxing like boxing. Just because of his personality.
Yeah, good point as well. Okay, thanks for that, guys. Chippers says, question for George and Steve. Dan Burn at left back, happy or brown underpants on standby, Steve?
It's funny, I had this conversation with somebody earlier in the week as well. Dan Burn is not a left back. Dan Burn's a centre back. At the moment, he's playing a role of left back because he has to. And I think this is going to be a big issue for Eddie going forward. Because when he does get his recognised left backs back fit, whether it's Tino, whether it's Lewis, whether it's both of them, and he has to make a choice between those two who are, in my mind, recognised fullbacks in the first instance. One of them definitely a recognised left back. The second one has worked his way into and across the back four from right back to left back, and that leaves the odd man out in my eyes, Dan Burn. Dan's problem now is how well Chiao and Botman are playing, and I think, you know, Fabian Schär is losing out in that respect as well. And this is when a manager really has to make and stand by his conviction and look at the performances and pick the team. And I think going forward, that is going to be our recognised two centre-backs as long as they stay fit. I do shake sometimes when I see some of the challenges or some of the positional play, but his long stride and his long legs so far have got him out of a bit of mischief, got him out of some difficulties. You can't fault, however, Dan Burn for his attitude. And sometimes attitude can take you far further than a talent. You know, the talent is one thing, but attitude on the football pitch is something different. And I think what you've got is you've got a player in Dan Burn who'll run through a brick wall, and there aren't that many brick wall running footballers out there at the moment. You know, it seems to be part of a bygone era. He's tough as old boots. He's black and white through and through, and he gives 100%. So it's a difficult one for me. I know he's not a recognised left back. I know where the club is heading, but where do we go? Where does Eddie go? This is where Eddie, we've said it time and time again, Eddie gets paid to make the big decisions. We don't. We get to support the decisions that Eddie makes, or condemn the situation, the decisions that Eddie makes in terms of his selection in terms of his formations, and we all have our own little say after we hear the team sheet or after a bad result, or we praise them after a good result. We don't have to choose that. Thank God I don't have to choose it. I wouldn't be like to be the man who has to tell Dan Burn, Dan, you're going to be on the bench when Tino and Lewis come back. But I tell you what, Dan Burn will make it doubly difficult for Eddie to make that decision. That's almost guaranteed. And I think probably just needs one of the other two centre-backs to slip up, and Dan Burn will be the first one there, champing it a bit. Out. No
it's a point I made earlier this week, Steve, that ultimately football doesn't work like that. In an ideal world, that is a problem that Eddie Howe's going to have, but you're only an injury or a suspension away from that. If football was that easy to plan, it would be a dream for managers, but it's not. It's mad, isn't it? It's we just don't know what's around the corner. That's what makes it a great game. Left back then, George. I don't mind Dan Burn there. I know that the pace is going to be a problem against a quick winger, but you know what? He's a lot more than a centre half playing left back. Dan Burn.
Yeah, he's learned, as all good professionals do, to use his experience in playing anyway to make up for those shortcomings. And I've got to say, it was noticeable on Sunday how Anthony Gordon tracked back just that little bit more than perhaps he needed to make sure that Dan Burn was covered in certain situations. No, he's not a left back, but as Steve says, at the end of the day, Eddie needs to fulfil his back four, and at the moment, he seems to be the best option. There are other options. I mean, Kraft could come in, or Kraft and Trippier could switch, whatever. But Dan Burn does enough to be there for me. And yes, he could get caught on pace, but he's got enough experience to read the game and make up for that, in my opinion. And the other thing is having his enthusiasm in the team is just more than a left back. You've got somebody who's absolutely black and white, bleeds black and white, and would do anything and does anything. And in fact, we'll talk about it later maybe, but on Sunday, he in other ways, he troubled Nottingham Forest consistently. And it might not be worth remembering that he kind of laid on the first goal for Bruno with his beautiful pass when everybody else thought he would go through and have a shot into the rosette. No, you've got, it would be silly not to accept he's not a left back, but it was equally silly to dismiss him as not being useful at Newcastle United, which he is in whatever capacity he's involved.
Yeah, tell you what was interesting, Steve, on Sunday was that for a couple of months now we've moved away from that tactic of Dan Burn coming in from the back post to the corner and trying to attack the ball. We've seen him standing on the goal line. We changed it on Sunday, and we had him trying to run from deep, but getting wrestled to the ground time and time and time again. The amount of block-offs and an aspect of the game that we were told in August was going to be wiped out. There was going to be no more wrestling in the box. The referees were going to really be sticklers for this. This was going to stop. This was an area that the PGMOL wanted to stamp down on. It was never going to be happening. And I think we all to a man said this will last 3, maybe 4 games. And by the time we get to October, it'll all be back. It'll all be forgotten, because that's what happens with every sort of rule that comes in, or whatever you want to call it, where the PGML suggests X, Y, or Z. And you know that it's never going to fulfill itself throughout the season. And we've seen it now. It certainly on Sunday. I mean, the number of times he was blocked off with his run, this type of thing, grappled, holding, the number of times the referee goes to separate players and stop it from going on. And you're thinking, hang on, you've got the power. You were told what you were supposed to do, and yet you're not implementing any of it. An aspect of the game that I think, we talk about fans being frustrated, but an aspect of the game that I think frustrates everyone. And it's that slyness of the PGML to tell us in August that they're going to be doing X, Y, and Z, and then by October it's all forgotten about. I just soul destroying at times. So it was ridiculous.
And the VAR excuse was pathetic. The holding wasn't significant enough. Yeah. Good God. What's significant when a bloke like as big as Dan Burns wrestled to the ground? What's more significant than that? But never mind.
Ridiculous, isn't it? Ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely bargain. Absolutely bargain.
Yeah, Botman's injury record and Byrne and Shaw will get games this season. They're both legends to have on the bench. Yeah, Barry, and that's what it's all about, having a good squad. It's what we've been talking about probably since August, since the window was shut. We have got a better squad. We might have lost the Swede, but we've gained some really good players, and with money to spend again in the next couple of windows, and potential changes with PSR. And Newcastle could be in a really, really good position, in the next 12 months. But the squad we've got is very good, and I'm quite happy with it. Okay, we are only doing an hour and a half tonight, so for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to read John Askew's email out. He says, as usual, I'd be interested in the variety of views on NUFC matters. Is it a particular tricky one for Johan Wissa? Does anyone know how the Congolese supporters will react if their main striker decides he's not going to the AFCON? And will the player be significantly influenced by the potential reaction of the fans? There's little doubt that if he decides he's not going to the tournament to stay on Tyneside to boost the NUFC cause, that would be a massive feather in his cap as far as the Magpie masses would be concerned. In one sense, it would mean he'd put the club before country. Frankly, such a decision wouldn't be forgotten by our fan base. And the fact that our main striker last season is now at Anfield would further boost Wissa's reputation if he were to choose us. Does anyone have any idea of how the Congolese fans might react if he stays with us? Would he be condemned outright, or would there be a degree of understanding under the circumstances? Or would they just not be bothered anyway? I haven't a clue, but perhaps someone connected to this platform might have a better idea of how things might go down. There's always a chance that the player might feel he owes us one after the injury situation. After all, we did pay an awful lot for his services, and we're the ones paying his wages. And he might also fancy a crack at the Champions League in December. And it wouldn't look particularly good if he plays a few games for us, only to fly away in mid-December for an extended period of leave away from Tyneside. So, it's clearly a bit of a dilemma for the player, and it might not be easy. But one thing's not in doubt. If he decides to miss the AFCON in favour of Newcastle United, he'll be a bit of a hero among the Geordie faithful. I wonder what the main players in NUFC matters think, and whether they tend towards him staying or going, and if he goes, will that increase the chances of early January transfer activity? I don't think this is the first time our striker situation is open to scrutiny. Thank you for that, John. What's your feelings on that then, Steve?
It's a really interesting one. I mean, I saw the little snippet in the press that said that he was considering not going to the AFCON and holding himself back, getting fit for Newcastle United. But I didn't see any direct quotes. It just seemed to be a story in the ether, as we often refer to it. No substance behind it, no supporting cast to say that, who's uttered those words, when the words were uttered, no direct quotes or anything like that. Was it something, because it interestingly came out only a few days after it was announced that his recovery had suffered a bit of a setback? It also coincided with the rumours that it was now an ACL injury. All of these you start putting them together and you think, well, hang on, well, is there any truth in this? We hear so much about players wanting to go to international tournaments, play in the AFCON, play in the European, play in South American tournaments, play in the World Cup. This is the aspiration that players have, especially players like Wissa, who is now very much in the main, in the forefront, a player that's cost £55 million for Newcastle United. I can understand the little bit that says, well, I don't want to jeopardise me Newcastle United career. I don't want to get off to a bad footing. I don't want the fans to think that I've spent the last 4 months simply getting fit for the AFCON. But that shouldn't really be, in my perspective, that shouldn't be in his remit. It shouldn't be his decision. It should be something that's done in conjunction with the guys in his country, the guys at the federation there, with reports before he ends up going to the AFCON that have to do with how fit he is, what the injury really sustains. It's a difficult one. Yes, we would all like him not to be at the AFCON and like them be available for those games that he would have missed at Newcastle. But I wonder whether or not he will be fit anyway. We've never seen him in a black and white shirt. We don't know what the injury really entails. We're hearing now injections are going to be the thing that cure him. Very rarely that an injection cures anything. It just sort of maybe dull a little bit of the inflammation. But when you get to the root cause of what the issue is, I don't think having continuous injections are going to be the remedy, and I think the lad, I think we'll just have to be very, very careful with him. There's also the criticism, isn't there, is how important is the AFCON to us? Well, to a white Geordie, it means absolutely nothing, to somebody from the Congo having Wissa available to play in the competition could be everything. And this is another dichotomy that he has. This is something that he has to resolve. But as I say, I suspect that this story is just something that's been concocted just because it's International Week, International Fortnight, very little else going on. And it's a sort of story that will get a headline, appease some Newcastle fans at the thought that Wissa won't be going, and also appease them and those who have been concerned by the previous articles saying he's perhaps not fit and the injury could be a lot worse than it is. And I think it's just something that's hovering in the press. We'll wait until December and we'll wait and find out. If he's playing regularly for Newcastle United, I would imagine he will go to the AFCON.
Yeah, I do as well. I've got to be honest. I can't see him putting club before country, and he's obviously pleased to play for his country. So, no, I can't see that happening. George, what's your feelings on John's email?
Well, I didn't. The important thing is that it's not even in his hands or Newcastle's hands. FIFA changed the rules about 3 years ago, and it's up to FIFA. It's up to Congo if they want him, and if they want him, we've got to let him go. And he can't choose not to go. If he does, they'll stick him before a doctor. And if he's fit, then Newcastle will end up having to pay a massive compensation. By the same token, we are receiving substantial compensation now because of the injury he received playing for the Congo. So it's not as straightforward as it looks. And the FIFA made it so that it wasn't in the player's hands. It isn't his gift. It's in the gift of decide between Newcastle United and the Congo, not the player. And as I say, if he decides he's not going, you can bet your bottom dollar the Congo would have him before their doctors in a flash. And if it was proved he could play, then Newcastle would lose out financially, big style. So it isn't as straightforward as it used to be, or people appear that it seems to be. Yes, I would like him to be in a black and white shirt as often as he can. But on the other hand, if we want to attract international stars, surely one of the things that the message that goes out to them is, well, Newcastle United will let you play for your country. And that, I think that's quite an important message for a club that's striving to be a worldwide brand, as it were, as well as to attract players from all over the place. So I think it's important that we support the player if he wants to go and find ways of coping with it. But at the moment, as I say, I don't even think it's in his hands or our hands. There's a set of rules by FIFA, and they will be applied, and we got to live with that. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either.
That brings up something else, doesn't it, Steve? Because if Issa said that he wasn't fit and didn't want to go, but the Congo pulled, the Republic of Congo FA pulled the wool and said, no, you've got to come and check him out, and he didn't turn up, they would put an embargo on him playing for us anyway during that Christmas period. when he was
Absolutely.
available. So that's another
Absolutely.
thing. And there's the other aspect of it is, as George says, we're receiving compensation from FIFA from the big international pot at the moment. It's in FIFA's best interests to make sure that he is fit, because they don't want to carry on paying. So
Yeah.
they're going to do everything they can to encourage the Congo to choose him, because the Congo are going to say, yeah, he's fit. And then, and we're left in a situation of, if he goes away, he gets injured, and he's out again. Having said that, I've seen the film, the video snippets of when he was injured. He had taken a kicking during the game, but the injury he sustained was just a fall. It was a run and a pull up, and went over. It wasn't as though he was side from, taken out from by the knee from the side and sustained any damage there. And that's a little bit concerning. The way that the injuries, and you could look at the state of the pitches and the quality of the pitches, which are going to be different my expectation would be that they were different to the quality of the pitches that we have here. And all of this, this is where Wissa himself, when he does get to the Congo or does get to the AFCON, he's going to have to make a decision with the team coach and physios over there to say whether or not he feels as though he can play. He could well be away, but not play. They might realise that he's not actually 100% fit. And I think in a tournament like that, you really do have to be 100% fit. There's no point in us allowing him to go and he's only 85-90%, because there's an even greater risk that he's going to pull up again. So it's one of those really, really difficult situations that I think everybody at Newcastle United would rather not get involved in at the moment and not talk about.
Yeah, very true. Okay, we are halfway through the show. Time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, a key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. And don't forget, the Christmas do is upon us at the Tyneside Irish Centre, and that takes place on the 21st of November at 7 10 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Joe Allen will be interviewing Warren Barton for part of the evening. There'll also be a live acoustic set from Adam Henderson, and Sid from Talk of the Tune will be spinning the CDs, the discs, whatever you want to call it. He'll be there, all in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. And a couple for your diary for next year at the Irish Centre as well. A couple back-to-back in January, just to blow away the Christmas blues. Friday the 23rd of January, Supermat and Gibbo are back together for Age UK North Tyneside. They are now officially on Woucher, so you can get your tickets on Woucher for those. And the Peter Beardsley one will be following on there as well. But if you want to buy them early and get some early bird tickets, get yourself onto the nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk website. With the fanzine behind us and on its way to you at home, Singe and myself put together this book this year. It's ready. We've given it our approval, and it's away to the printers, the promoter and the photographer. 25 years of bringing the stars to Tyneside. It's a fanzine style book, but there's just short of 100 pages. Nice glossy photographs in there, unseen photographs of a lot of legends. The likes of Gaza, Tyson and Buster Bloodvessel, of course, from Bad Manners, and the late great Ricky Hatton and Pavel Cernicek feature in the book. A page of stories from me, a page of stories from Singe, and an unseen photograph or two of the lads and lasses who we've promoted in the North East over the last 25 years. The book's a tenner. And again, Singe and I have done this for free, so all proceeds from that will go again to Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Big thank you to Penny Print in Gateshead. They're doing that at not zero price, but a rock bottom price. We are going to do 200 limited edition of them. And a big thank you to Rob Maltman, who has designed that for free. Can't praise Rob enough. He's been a massive help to NUFC matters, especially with the charity fundraising stuff. He does all our posters. He does the fanzine, 4 fanzines free of charge, and does that as well. Does the books as well. So thank you to him for doing that. Much appreciated. But yeah, please, if you can, spare a tenner, get yourself onto the website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk, and we will hopefully sell all 200 and make a nice few quid again for the charity. Okay. As always, NUFC Matters doesn't take any responsibility whatsoever for any of these tweets that the viewers have sent in. If you are woke or easily offended, it is probably best to go away for 5 or 6 minutes while we'll go through the tweets of the week. And we've had a few signs sent as always. Don't you hate it when your shins catch on fire and your mate can't help because he's just eating the desk coal? Yes, Daddy, that's pretty much nailed what that is. I love these packets when they're genuine. Ballcock shank nut bag. What on earth is that? Anybody know? Anybody know? No. This one in the toilet's brilliant. Please stop shagging the pub dog in the toilets. This is a pub, not a dog brothel.
Right. Uh-huh.
And another one. Please report graffiti to the front desk. Thank you. Someone's graffitied the note with will do.
Will do.
And another thing. Prince Andrew close. I hope not.
Warning.
And in the sleepy village of Erbum, near the town of Tillet in Hertfordshire, is the Cock Inn pub, run by a lady named Linda Likes. Her address is Linda Likes, the Cock Inn, Erbum, Tillet Hurts. And left school, no job, no money. Yep, that old Viz Cup. Somebody sent me that this week. Brilliant. I used to have one of them. I don't know whatever happened to that. Fantastic. Thank you for that. And not leaving it until the last minute this year, lads, to wrap the wife's Christmas presents.
Brave.
All done. Couple of I love these photographs, which look like one thing, but they're a complete other. This poor little girl's been stood outside for ages. I don't think she's English. Might be a Pole.
Oh.
Yeah.
And this one, decided to go for a walk on the beach and got freaked out when I thought I ran into a clan meeting. Turns out they're just closed beach umbrellas.
A look as well there, mate, I must admit.
And I've been spelling Erica wrong my entire life. Erica McBride. And after a hard day's work, it's time to relax, lads.
Oh, dear me.
It's me new year. And me saying boobs age 15, me saying boobs age 50. Very good. And having left school with no qualifications, social skills, morals, or sense of humour, Kevin made a great traffic warden.
Oh, very good.
And yes, this season has finally arrived, lads.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you can tell Jimmy Wilson's been in full effect this week. I'm sick and tired of you pretending that we're talking over the radio. This relationship is over. This relationship is what? Over.
Over. Oh dear. And out.
Another one of those lookalikes. Stand and deliver.
That's good. That
Very clever. Very clever. And this is brilliant. In the Star Sheffield newspaper, how cops top this drug kingpin's empire. Bloke in the comments, Button, I owed him 100 quid from the weekend. I asked my daughter to give me the phone book. She laughed at me and called me a dinosaur. I lent me her iPhone. So the spider is dead, the iPhone is broken, and my daughter is furious. Couple of news headlines. Greg's plan to use drones to deliver pasties. One local customer criticised the idea, saying, it all sounds like pie in the sky to me.
Oh.
And Boy George's peppers have been 3 people this week. Authorities have warned the singer he needs a calmer chameleon.
Oh, very good.
And the Daily Dafty, I just bought Neil Diamond's car off eBay, claims local man. He told his mates, sweet car online. Da, da, da. Couple of tattoos. Powder Ranger. Very good. That's it. And gone to market.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Very clever.
Wow.
And lads, long story short, but I'm not allowed to sunbathe on my roof anymore. Can I take this medicine with diarrhea, says the woman in the chemist? Yeah, but it tastes much better with water.
Oh, God.
And Bonnie Blues bang bus after one night on tour. 4,000 years ago, pyramids were built. Then this.
Christ almighty.
I know. Every fisherman's dream, a girl that even smiles at small ones. And he might not have done it, but this guy sure heard about it. When you can't afford an electric toothbrush.
Oh, dear me.
Oh.
And I tried that new app, lads. It showed what you look like in 40 years' time.
Oh.
Look at the state of that lawn.
Shocking.
Breaks hand.
Absolutely awful.
Changes Facebook relationship status to it's complicated.
Yeah.
And I've got a package today with bullets and a note in Arabic. Idiot. They're suppositories and a prescription from a doctor. What happens when you wear Crocs too long, lads? There's the answer. I like this one as well. Simple but effective. Boeing 747. Boeing 747. Last two, sorry. When I was a kid, you could go into a corner shop with £1 and come out with 2 Cokes, 3 Freddos and a magazine. Nowadays, there's CCTV everywhere. And we'll finish with this one. Her parents said, what are your intentions with our daughter? Me, Barry McCockiner. Thank you to everybody who, that's brilliant. Thank you to everybody who has sent us those this week. Jimmy Wilson, you're a naughty, naughty man. Jimmy Moore, you're not far behind him. Paul Davison as well, special mention to Paul, he keeps sending us leads. Paul Davison has become the new Mark Byers. Some of the stuff you send, Mark, I genuinely couldn't put it up because even though I have a disclaimer on here for what people send, believe you me, not just the channel would get shut down, I would be arrested for some of the stuff you said. So please narrow it down a little bit to stuff you think I can put on air. But thank you to everybody who sends them in. Don't forget, if you have got a tweet of the week and you want to send it to us and you're not on social media, email it to us, nufcmatters8092@gmail.com. And I promise, if I can, I'll stick it on there after the disclaimer. Thank you to Denise. She's got a book ordered. Thank you very much. Yeah, please do order the book if you can. If you haven't already, it's there. I'll keep sticking the link up anyway. We'd like to get to 200 copies because that means we'll probably hit another nice amount for the for Age UK No Time Sign. For those of you who are tuning in late, that's what the fanzine raised: £1,902.14. So 100, just short of 100 subscribers. I think it's 96 subscribers. That includes the two that David Cook bought for Les and Denise, but £1,902.14 raised by you good people out there for the dementia charity. And thanks to you, Rob. Rob's in the chat. We've given you a bit of praise tonight, Rob. Honestly, you've been a diamond. You've been an absolute godsend. That we've done, and to turn the book down around as quickly as you have for me and Singe has been absolutely superb, unbelievable, mate. So Rob, thank you, mate. Really, really do appreciate it. Okay, we did have a couple of questions. I just want to say happy birthday to Alan McKenzie for tomorrow. I think it's his birthday, 12 o'clock tonight. I know they're on holiday. There we go. He's been to an island called Lochram today where hundreds of peacocks roam wild, he says. Every one of them's called Darren. Paul says, tongue in cheek, if Forest get relegated, let's get Elliot Anderson back. It's an interesting one, this, Steve, and I know you wanted to chat a little bit about the game because it's your first one back. It's funny you say it was a good atmosphere. I didn't think it was a particularly good atmosphere this week, but it's all about opinions. I just felt it was quite quiet after the last couple of games. Maybe that's the reason I felt like that. But, you know, Elliot Anderson had a really good game. Giving away the penalty, fair enough. Disappointing that for him, I guess. But, you know, on a return, it was a comprehensive return for the young lad. And for England, he looks like he's been there for years. But anyhow, had his arm around him, Eddie was quite praiseworthy. Give him a lot of praise, didn't he? In the press conference pre-match, which I found quite strange that he would do that. You know, still very disappointed that he let him go. Could you ever see a day when Elliot Anderson returned to Newcastle?
Yes, I could. And I think that day might come if, and this is a big if, and I hope, I'd like to see Elliot Anderson back regardless, but I think if, for example, Juventus came in with a bid for Tonali next season, I think we would be straight in to get Elliot Anderson back. That's how good I think Elliot Anderson has turned into. I'm one of these skeptics who didn't see much of Elliot Anderson that impressed me when he was here. I thought he was one of those players that looked as though, or we kept hearing he had the potential, but it just goes to show when you're not getting a game, when you're not getting a regular first team opportunity, that sometimes, and it happens to local lads, you know, they sit around, they wait and wait. We're seeing it with Lewis Miley at the moment. But when they're ready to blossom and another team takes advantage and they blossom somewhere else, I think Elliot Anderson would slot into our midfield no problem now. I think he's got that football brain that allows him to play as a 6, to play as an 8. He's one of those intelligent midfielders. He goes out and he listens to what the manager wants and he does the job that the manager asks for. And I think that's what's enticing and exciting Thomas Tuchel for England. Because I think Tuchel isn't an international manager. He's more of a club manager. And he relies on players doing what he says. He controls the game in that way, you know, a bit like Mourinho, you know, very, very intense, but very, very blinkered as well into the way he wants his team to operate. We're seeing it in the other way at Man United at the moment with their manager, where he's devised a plan, but he hasn't got the nuts and bolts to fit in. But I think Elliot Anderson is such an intelligent footballer that he could fit into any of the team, whether those that are above us in the league or for Newcastle United now. So yes, I do see Elliot Anderson being the sort of player that, and I think as long as Eddie Howe remains the manager, there's every possibility that he would be pushing to get Elliot Anderson back. Those words that he came out with tell you exactly how much he thinks of the player. You saw last night for England, you know, he's just slotted in so easily, but it's what he's done for a player who I think was struggling at England level in Rice. And I think Declan Rice has been given a new lease of life in midfield because we've got an intelligent player alongside him, and Elliot Anderson, who can just slot back and allow some other players to do their special thing. And I think when we've got a Bruno in the team, or a Tonali, and if we were without Joe Linton, he would be straight in. I think he could hold his own with any of those three as well. And I think that there's a huge chance that he would, if he was going to go anywhere, if Forest went down, or even if they don't go down, but we've got a relationship with Forest, offer enough money to that crazy owner and he'd jump at it. I don't think the owner looks at players, and although he did with Gibbs White to some extent, but I think that was more to do with his relationship with the fans that he was trying to protect. But I think with Elliot Anderson, he would be the sort of owner that would go, you know what, I'll take that money, because he's a wheeler dealer owner, and he desperately wants to improve, and the only way that he can improve is by moving players on, bringing in players, that constant sort of revolving door of footballers, and that could be to our advantage, whether it's next season, the season after. But when I saw the article about Tonali where he was interviewed, and again, this is what happens in international weeks, isn't it? A player goes away, he gets an interview in his own language, and the press pick it up, and before you know it, because all that Tonali said, well, who knows? Because there will be a point sometime in Tonali where he'll go back. There's no question about it. That's where he's from. He's going to go back home eventually. He didn't say, I'm going to go home at the end of the season. He didn't say, I'm going to review it or anything like that. But this is what happens. But when I hear things like that, I think, you know what? If there's a point where Tonali leaves, Elliot Anderson would be a great pick to bring back in and replace him. Because I see
him replacing Joe Linton, to be honest. And I think, but I think, and I've said this when you were away, Steve, that Lewis Miley is finding his feet very slowly. He's had a few run-outs this season already. He looks like he's getting a bit more physical, a bit more back to his best. But I think that he sees him as a replacement almost for Joe Linton. I really do. And we heard lots of rumours in the pre-season that he might go out on loan. He might even leave the club at one point. But nothing concrete came. And Eddie clearly doesn't want to lose another youngster. But I can see him. I could see Elliot Anderson coming in as like a Joe Linton role. But at the moment, Lewis Miley seems to be fitting into that kind of place as well.
Well, he certainly brought him on in a couple of games, hasn't he? When
trusts him now.
Yeah. That's a good word, Steve. He trusts him to go in and do the job that he's expected to do. Came in for Joe Linton towards the end of the game on Sunday. Played in the cup match against Watford, a game that I must admit I didn't get to watch, so I can't really comment on his performance. All I can go on is what I've heard from you guys and what I've read in various social media posts and reports on the game. But it sounds like he had a really good game. My only caveat to that was the opposition. That's an opposition that you would expect him to excel against, because if he's got aspirations to be a top class footballer, then you would say when you get your opportunity, you grasp it. And the cup is probably an area where Newcastle are going to be resting players. Be interesting to see whether they rest players against Tottenham, however, because that could well be an interesting game. And I think we do want to progress in the cup. It's just a shame that we've picked up a draw against Tottenham so early in the rounds. Although, having said that, we did come in 2 rounds later than everybody else anyway. So there was all that's left are relatively top teams anyway. So I suppose that the pick of the teams that we could have got, Tottenham was a good choice, a good draw for us. But I mean, the Miley whole sort of Miley and Anderson question, it then brings us into the conversations about the academy, doesn't it? And where the academy's going, and do we really want to bring youngsters through? Yes, we do. Are we the support sort of fan base that will get behind those youngsters? Strangely got behind Elliot Anderson after he left. There's various people who wouldn't get behind Lewis Miley. There's another side of the camp that are desperate to see Miley play. And I suppose from from a Geordie perspective, it would be great to have the likes of a Lewis Miley and Elliot Anderson pulling up trees for the club, because there's nothing better than a homegrown player that you can get behind. We do have a bit of a section of our fan base who kind of reluctant to do that and like to have a pop and like to lay blame. And sometimes because a player hasn't cost much money, he becomes the target of brickbats. It's happened. It happens at every club, I suppose. No, there's no reason why Elliot Anderson could not slot straight into anywhere along our midfield and do a really good job for us. I think it's just so disappointing that we had to lose him in the first place. The manner that we lost him, for coppers really. At the end of the day, it was reported 30 million, but I think it turned out to be somewhere in the value of 15 by the time you took the money off for the goalkeeper that we had to take in exchange. And this is the problem with PSR, and let's hope PSR can sort itself out. Although now that the Premier League, and I think I've said it to you guys, now that the top teams in the Premier League are spent up, all of a sudden they want to change PSR. They're wanting to change the whole situation, aren't they? And that just shows you how corrupt the thing is. They didn't want to change it last season when it was only affecting the likes of ourselves and Aston Villa. Now, for next season, the likes of Arsenal who have spent up, Liverpool who have spent up, Man United who have spent up, Chelsea who have spent up, all of a sudden they're going, we need to look at PSR, don't we? Because it's going to start to affect them. Ridiculous.
Yeah, Elliot Anderson, I mean, he's the one that got away, George. I've got to be honest, I agree with a lot of people in the chat. He wouldn't have got into the first team. He still wouldn't get into the first three in that midfield three at the moment for me. And he hasn't suddenly become Gascoigne and Maradona rolled into one since he went to Forest. But what he has got is he's got more experience. He's playing week in, week out. Now he's qualified player for England. But I still think it would have been nice to have him as an option to bring on at Newcastle, but I don't think he'd be starting at the moment at Newcastle, despite all of the love we've had from Eddie Howe.
Well, all I'd say is if he got on and he played for us the way he's played for England at the moment, who would dare take him off? And I don't think Eddie Howe would take him off. And I think the long chat and cuddle he had with him at the end of the match last Sunday just says how Eddie Howe feels about him anyway. But I agree with you. He's grown up elsewhere, but it stood him no harm in his career in one sense. Just disappointing the way he had to go to sort of rescue us from a financial hole that we should have predicted and we didn't, sadly. But I think, for England last night, he was just outstanding, and even the commentators were saying that how he was controlling the game and just the way Tuchel wants him to, and he's always available for the ball, not always available. And very interestingly, that the second half, when Tuchel decided to play Anthony Gordon centre forward, Anthony Gordon looked better than Watkins did at centre forward, and the reason, because Elliot Anderson kept spotting his runs and dropping the ball in for him. So he was causing Wales all sorts of trouble with his pace. And that was down to Elliot Anderson as much as anybody. So, the people at St James's Park who see Anthony Gordon as an occasional centre forward should have a look at that record and see how Elliot Anderson played with him and get somebody to join up with him. I wouldn't be sad to see him come. In fact, I'd be delighted to see him come back again, because when he was here, he worked harder and he earned his place, and built himself up physically as well as anything else. So another black and white that would bleed black and white. On the issues of local players, of course, we've got another one that left us, Paul Short Longstaff, who's now burning the grass for Leeds and is in the top. Is it the top four or top three or top four midfielders in the statistics at the moment? And Leeds are singing his praises out all over. So it's one of those ones. Half of them like him, half of them don't. It's a bit like Marmite. But Elliot Anderson, I'd be delighted to have him back at Newcastle again. And on Sunday, he was their best player. And the only other player really two players to outstrip him in midfield, in my opinion, on Sunday were Tonali and Bruno. And that's quite a thing to say about somebody. Otherwise, he was really good at it and showed what he could do. Just a pity that those around him couldn't take the benefit of it. Thank goodness they didn't, as it happens. So yeah, welcome back for me anytime, and would do a good job. Would do a good job.
Doesn't even need to be loaned out to the Football League, looks to play. Yeah, there's been an interesting article, Steve, this week about Sean Neave in the Chronicle. Saying that he's one for the future, the academy back, and I mean, it would be lovely to see him come through. And of course, Alex Murphy is still featuring in the squad for the first team. But again, you hope that he, when he gets his chance, he can take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I spoke to someone who knows Sean quite well, and at the end of last season, beginning of this, and the word was that the club definitely saw him having a future here at Newcastle. They felt as though that he needs to bulk up a little bit. He's a striker, and then they feel as though he needs to be a little bit stronger. And they wanted to put him on a kind of pathway like they did with Elliot Anderson a couple of seasons ago, where he went strengthening and conditioning. And that's just because the nature of the player that he is, the style player, and the position that he plays, he needs to be a little bit more physically astute, and a little bit more be able to hold his own. And the plan would be that this season, that strength and conditioning, and it looks like it's working at the lower level. It's working at, he got a hat trick the other night. He's certainly holding his own there. But next season, a season on loan, perhaps in the Championship or League One, and that's part of a progression plan that they've got for him. Be interested to see whether it matures that way, or whether the player himself, because often a club can, or a coach or a fitness coach and a fitness team can look at a player and go, this is what we want, needs, must, but then, things evolve, things change. We saw it with Andy Carroll. Andy Carroll would have probably been loaned out, but he got his opportunity and he started scoring goals and he became a presence, and that was it. You've had other players who have gone on loan and they just disappear. But I think with Sean, they do have a plan for him. And the plan might change, as I say, and he might be that he doesn't go on loan because he gets his opportunity in the first team, in and around the first team. He hasn't played a first team game yet, and he's got a cup winners medal. Absolutely amazing when you think about it, and it just goes to show that Eddie had faith in him, and if necessary, would have brought him on if the situation required it, because he was on the bench. So I think we have to change our mindset on young players. We have to not put too much pressure on them, and when they do get their opportunity, we have to get behind them. And at the end of the day, these could turn into the lifeblood of the football club. These could be the players that save us an absolute fortune. They cost us nothing, and I don't want to fall into the trap of building them up just to beat some sort of PSR. I want to see them wearing a black and white shirt, and I want to see them getting 100, 150 appearances, and I want to see them scoring goals. I want to see them in goals, saving goals. I want to see them defending and showing that they've got the quality, because every footballer somewhere along the line has been a youngster and breaking into a first team, and then being able to progress his career when he becomes 23 or 24, or 21, 22. So, that's how we've picked up the likes of a Sven Botman, or we've picked up on somebody like Alex Shaw, because somebody's had faith in them to get them into the first team in the first place and get a good run of 100 and 150 games under the belt, and then they become a value. And then not only a value, but a high-end value, and they're being sold because you've got someone else who's followed the same path coming through, and you can allow them to move on. So it's that progression planning, and let's hope with Newcastle's academy they do have a progression plan, but a progression plan that allows the player to flourish in a black and white shirt, not just to be enhanced and then sold on.
Yeah, George, I mean, the academy, you know, has churned out some
Yeah,
great players over the years. The class of 92 probably stands out in more recent times. You know, your Lee Clarks, your
yeah,
Harrys, your
yeah.
Robbie Elliott, Steve Watson's, etc. But you know, the academy, it's been sporadic over the last few years. You know, with spitting players out, not a conveyor belt, spitting the odd player out. You know, Newcastle made great money on Andy Carroll, for example. But you know, the money we got in for Elliot Anderson, as Steve's rightly pointed out, was nowhere near what we should have got for him.
No.
You know, down to the PSR situation we found ourselves in, and the fact we had to go and get a goalkeeper that never played a first team game for Newcastle in return, meant it was around about 15 million, I think we ended up getting for him. But yeah, it's Sean Leaves another name, isn't it? It's another name. It's a long line of names that we've had, which not they don't always make it.
And is consistently a name that put forward because he's with it under 21s, he's playing out of his skin. I mean, the other night at the game that Steve's alluded to, where he scored those goals, he was assisted by the young Korean Park, and apparently the opposition just couldn't get near them, and they were playing a team of a much stronger um, than an under 21 team. It was a full team. So and they got through I think it's the Football League Cup or something they were playing in, and they won hands down thanks to Neve and Park. They were both absolutely outstanding. It is important we get them together. I do wonder how, you know, I've lost touch with things like the FA Youth Cup and this sort of thing, where we always used to have a squad that did well in that, and over the years, and always produced 2 or 3 players who made first team level, and I would like to see that more prominent, so that supporters can actually get involved with that again, because we used to see some good crowds at the Youth Cup games that we were successful in. I've not seen it myself, but it'd be nice to see. But young Neve, definitely, if he keeps going the way he is definitely will get the opportunity, because we've got the manager that'll let him, and that would be great. You know, one more for the pot.
Okay, international weekend means there's no game for us to talk about. Rather funnily though, me and Andre were talking backwards and forwards today on WhatsApp, and I asked him for his video for the night. He went, "There's no game." Yeah, I was too busy with other things, but anyway. Yeah, we won 3-0 last night. I mean, I did watch a bit of it against Wales in a friendly. No Dan Burn, of course, keeping him for Tuesday night to get in the World Cup qualifier. He's broken some bone in his hand as well, but he'll be fine. He's as hard as goat's knees, so he'll be fine. But I'm sure he'll play Tuesday. Anthony Gordon played 90 minutes, played very well. But what surprised me last night was the atmosphere, and Tuchel picked up on it as well. 3-0 up in 20 odd minutes, and it was flat. And it does tend to happen that with England games at Wembley now. For friendlies, what was your take on what you had to say, Steve? Because really, we get bored with friendlies. I think the players get bored with friendlies, and it looks like the fans at Wembley were bored with the friendly, despite the good start that they had.
Yeah, I think is Wembley not one of those grounds that's too big for a friendly. I must admit I was surprised, because going 3-0 up, if that had been a league game, or if it had been played at, I don't know, St James's Park, Villa Park, the new Everton Stadium. I was going to call it the new Goodison, but you're not allowed to call it that. Or if it had been played at Anfield, I think you would have seen the team carrying on the momentum for the next 30 minutes after they'd scored and gone 3-0 up. I think the momentum would have been there, and it would have carried them forward. And quite possibly in 4, 5, 6 would have been a really, really embarrassing for the Welsh, Craig Bellamy, who's the Welsh first team coach. I think friendly should be moved away from Wembley. I'm writing a little piece at the moment, Steve. As you know, we're putting together a little book, and I've actually stated in it that even though my formative years as a youngster, my first recollection of football was the '66 World Cup. And as a 6-year-old, you're very much wrapped up in, England, and you knew West Ham United simply because as a 6-year-old you had 3 players from West Ham playing in the team. I can't remember anything about 65 or 64 or 63 football. The first football recollections were England, and yet after that I lost complete interest. I was totally one of these who was totally wrapped up in club football, my club, and so I've never been an avid England fan. I've never been a one to travel away to watch England, or even to travel down to Wembley to appreciate what it's like. So it's I suppose it's difficult for me to put out an honest assessment of what Wembley's like. I can only go on what I've seen on TV. I know that there are many Newcastle fans who love to go to Wembley and love to watch England and follow England religiously. It's not my scene. It's just not something I've done. I'll follow England when we get to a tournament, just like the rest of the nation will. I'll get behind it. I'll be excited. I'll go to the pub and watch it. I'll sit with my mates. I'll slag what off when we get knocked out in the quarterfinals or whatever. I'll get disappointed, upset when we've got to a final and we haven't produced the goods after doing so well. But it's not the be all and end all. The be all and end all for me in football wise, Newcastle United, and how well we perform. Yeah, I like to see England players do well. I like to see Newcastle players getting an opportunity playing for England and doing well wearing the shirt. I feel as though we've got a little bit of a say, but it hasn't happened that very often, So, in terms of the atmosphere, I'll go by what I see on TV, and I think to myself, did they all just want to go for a Bovril, or did the prawn sandwich brigade take over? Whatever it was, something happens at Wembley when a team comes out in the second half and doesn't click, or the performance doesn't match what you've seen in the first 25 minutes. And I suppose you could turn around and go, well, the 3-0 up. They never looked as though they were gonna lose or concede. I think didn't Pickford go now? Is it the record of 8 clean sheets in a row while being in goal for England? I think he beat the record of Gordon Banks. Very rarely tried again last night. Didn't very little effort from the Welsh, who were very disappointing. So I suppose what tends to happen after half an hour when you're 3-0 up, you drift into their level, and you drift into the opposite, and you just cruise. And I think that's probably what some of the players did as well. Certainly the crowd get bored. I suppose at that point, that's when it's really boring, when the paper aeroplanes start flying around from the top stand into the lower stand and things like that. Or they start singing about, the Arsenal fans start singing about West Ham, and the West Ham fans start singing about Millwall, and the Millwall fans start singing about everybody, and that's when you realise it's getting they've switched off. The fans are switched off. I don't know whether that happened last night, but we just look on it as a friendly. Have the FA got the guts to turn around? A couple of months ago, we played games at Villa Park, but that was simply because Wembley was being taken up, and the authorities were happy to take the money for a Coldplay concert. Obviously, the concert season's over, and Wembley's available now, and all of a sudden, we've got to play at Wembley. Bit of a cop out, really, isn't it?
George, international breaks. I mean, it loses momentum for us after getting off to a home win at last with Forest, getting our first Champions League away win. But yeah, the international breaks, they seem to be boring the fans at Wembley as well.
Well, yeah, it stuck out for me in the fact that 7,000 Welsh fans took over Wembley as far as the cheering was concerned. Apart from when Steve says the Arsenal fans and the West Ham fans were having a go at each other. Otherwise, it was all Welsh fans, and they were 3-0 down. And that tells you something about it, really. And my history is even in the Chicken Road Academy when I was little. Me uncles and my grandfathers, my dad occasionally. The only time England would raise in their consciousness is if somebody from Newcastle was playing for England. That big example was it wasn't even the England team. We used to have games between the Football League, the Scottish League, and the Irish League, and all of that. And Jackie Milburn got picked for the Football League, and they played the Irish League at Hillsborough, and they booked the bus and went to watch Jackie Milburn, who rewarded them with 5 goals and got into the next England team. So that's the kind of thing. They would go, but largely to support a Newcastle player or two that was in the squad or actually in the team, like Jackie Milburn used to be. So other than that, England didn't exist for them until television came along, and then as Steve says, people start to get interested when World Cups come along and that kind of thing. It was very flat, and as I say, the 7,000 Welsh fans showed us how to cheer. The important thing for Tuchel is he sees the players getting some competitive minutes in their legs before an important match next week. And again, for me, it was nice to see Anthony Gordon doing what he did. He was superb last night, and see Anderson controlling the game like that. That all is very nice. But on the other hand, as you say, the downside for us is we just got the momentum going again, winning games at all levels. And the next thing we really wanted was to have another one very quickly and win that, but not to be. I find the international breaks difficult to stomach, really. It's not done for the sake of fans. It's obviously done for the sake of money, mostly, I suspect. Not suspect, obviously. And I could do without it, to be honest. But on the other hand, I want to see players get international football for our club as well, because it sends a message to other players that might want to come that if you go to Newcastle, you might get a chance of an international cap, which is still important to them. But no, it's towards the end. I mean, it was a nothing game, really. It really was a nothing game, yes. and they showed it. It just petered out to absolutely nothing.
Two things, Steve, that just from the conversation we had. The first one was I did get a message last night from a mate who said, you know what, there might be crap at football, the pits might be shut, but they're still canny singers. When he was referring to the other one was, I don't know whether you've seen it, there's a little article just slipped out in one of the papers. It might have been in more, I'm not too sure, I haven't looked. But there is talk of UEFA and FIFA extending the league. So our league, our Premier League, for example, the Bundesliga, the Italian league, extending us and having us play until June, and giving us a break, a more longer international break. So the national break could last 3 weeks and they'll squeeze more international games. And they're saying this has got nothing to do with the gradual move towards what's happening, for example, next season when we go to America and we're going to be playing World Cups in ridiculously hot temperatures. Then there are going to be other World Cups games played in Tunisia, Argentina, and then obviously we've got the big one in Saudi Arabia coming up. And they've identified that June is the optimum time. It's the only month where we should and could be playing football anywhere in the world, but don't, temperature-wise. So it's a good temperature in the southern hemisphere. It's a good temperature in the northern hemisphere. We then move into July and it's too hot. We move into August and it's too hot in various leagues. So this is something that's probably something for to look out for. It'd be interesting to see whether or not it does transpire, and it does occur. But there's certainly a lot of talk in UEFA about all of a sudden our league moving into continuing into June. I don't know how that will affect the players in terms of fitness. I don't know how it will affect the players in terms of break. We will have the likes of a Simon Jordan who say the players get paid an awful lot of money, so that they should be available, and we will get those ex-players who will come out and say they're playing far too much football, and it's the worst thing that could happen. So it's a big debate. At the end of the day, money is what makes football go around. And if the TV people think they're going to get better options playing, and the players are going to be more suited playing in a June, then it'll happen, won't it?
Yeah, certainly will. Okay, end of the show. Take one of these. The day I met where I asked you to send in photographs of meeting somebody from Newcastle, past or present. Thank you to Wesley Robson. He says, if you need the day I met for this week, I've just spent an hour with Eddie Howe. He's watching his son play for Dame Allen's against my son's school team, Walbottle. Hugged him and chatted football. Love that. Lots of people bump into Eddie like that. So thank you for sending that. And Wesley Robson, of course, a good friend of the show, but also a relative of the late, great Malcolm Dix. Back tomorrow, 9:30 in the morning, 3 the crowd. Just me and Ted the Mackham in the morning, who talk about the season so far from our two clubs' perspectives, and then the professionals 5 o'clock. On Sunday night, at the moment, it looks like me, Steve and Stu will be doing the show, but Mitch may make an appearance. But once again, thank you to everybody who supported us on the fanzine. Ride again this year, £1,902.14, and I think we've just increased it slightly. We've had one left, I think, and somebody's bought it, and we're just going to push on without it. But I think Bruce Durham's bought it. I think it was, or Barry Durham. I haven't got the exact name in front of us, but thank you. You know who you are. You're probably watching the show tonight. Brian Durham. There you go. He's bought a copy of the book and he's bought the last fanzine subscription. So thanks for that. So I must take that off the website. So that'll be something like £1,922.14 now after the things come off. But great stuff. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to George. Thanks to Steve. Thanks to all the
everybody. Good to see you.
I'm in the squad. I'm in the squad for Sunday.
Very good. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday, mate. Take care.
Thank you.
See you.